There's no better time than now for Ohio State to turn up the heat on the quarterback.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Thursday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda. Move and be moved. During today's show, we will feature a couple segments from when I was on Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, along with Roman Tomashoff of Locked On Huskies. Both of us discussed the big game between the Buckeyes and the Huskies, as well as if Ohio State needs to be on upset alert. But first, this weekend's game for Ohio State, as they return to the field, is big for multiple reasons. One, it's your Big Ten opener. Two, it's your first road game. But number three, it allows Ohio State's defensive front to have another opportunity to get pressure on the quarterback. And through 3 games, Ohio State's defense has been phenomenal. But it hasn't been hitting on all cylinders in every single game. There are still moments and times where you want to see more pressure on the quarterback from guys on the edge, from guys in the middle. Maybe it's a blitzing backer or a guy in the defensive backfield. Whichever the case may be, you need to see more pressure on the quarterback. Not just because you need to see it, but because Ohio State needs to do it. Ohio State is too talented. They have too many good players to have the amount of sacks that they have. And with this game being so important for multiple reasons, but one of them just internally for Ohio State, the Buckeyes coaches and players themselves can challenge each other to make sure they get more pressure on the quarterback. And that is something I think is going to be very, very key for Ohio State moving forward, especially in Big Ten play, making sure you're not only containing a quarterback like Damon Williams that we mentioned. I'm going to mention numerous times on this show before the kickoff on Saturday afternoon. But you also got to be able to get pressure from different angles throughout all 4 quarters of a game. And for Ohio State in this moment, they have guys I believe can do it. Caden Curry is a playmaker. Said in the offseason, somebody thought I was crazy. Oh, he plays defensive line. I don't care. He's a playmaker. And what has he done this year already? He has made plays. Oh, who else is out there? Bo Atkinson's been pretty good. Arvo Reese got in the backfield from the linebacker position. But there are other guys on Ohio State's team that I believe need to be challenged, along with the entire unit. The entire unit can be challenged. But I'm looking at a couple guys right now that I thought were going to be better in the early part of the year. One guy in particular, but I think these 2 guys specifically, and CJ Hicks and Kenyatta Jackson Jr., can show everybody that while the Buckeyes were not playing a week ago, they were working and grinding to be unleashed against Washington. And I don't believe, like it has been at times, that Ohio State coaches have been trying to hold these guys back. I don't think so. Kenyatta got knocked out of the Texas game. He came back and really Grambling in Ohio. You really didn't need him to win. So his productivity and sometimes snap count weren't as high as it may be on a given Saturday in Big Ten play. But I'm looking for Kenyatta Jackson Jr. to utilize that week off to get back on the field and to wreak havoc on an improved Washington offensive line. A year ago, Washington's offensive line was atrocious, and I believe they gave up 10 sacks against Oregon a year ago, and Auburn's offensive line gave up 10 sacks to Oklahoma this past weekend. If you want to get a reference or something that recently happened to show how bad the offensive line was, look no further than last week's game between Oklahoma and Auburn, where even at the end of the game, you could tell Auburn's offensive line was no match when Oklahoma was throwing at them. And in this game, while Washington's offensive line is improved, it shouldn't be able to handle the guys up front. And think about how great it would be for us to watch an Ohio State game this weekend where Ohio State is able to get pressure with 4. The secondary is already going to be great. I have no doubt in my mind that Igman Olsen and Matthews Jr. and everybody else on the team is going to be great in that defensive backfield all season long. As long as everybody's healthy, that's going to be a fun unit to watch. But think about how much more fun it will be to watch with those guys in the defensive backfield. If you get guys up front, the 3-man or 4-man front, whatever the case may be, if they're able to get pressure with 4. I mean, that's what made Ohio State's defense so great a year ago towards the end of the year, is that you didn't have to blitz all the time with Cody Simon and Sonny Styles to get pressure on the quarterback. Jim Knowles still did it, and it was a great thing to see. But you could get pressure with Tyler Williams and Ty Hamilton and Jack Sawyer and Jalen Tuimoloau. You can get pressure with those guys all game long. Even the fact where Ohio State generally rotates a lot of guys throughout a regular season, if they're playing every snap or if they're only missing 5 snaps of the entire time the defense is playing in a particular game, they were able to step up to the challenge. They were able to provide the necessary play that Ohio State needed from them so that they didn't have to consistently blitz. And this isn't to say Patricia isn't going to blitz if the guys can get pressure with 4, but it makes his job easier. It makes the defensive job easier when you can get pressure with 4 while potentially being blocked with only 5 guys. Think about it. An offensive line is supposed to handle a 4-man rush. Even if it's a twist or a stunt or a slant, whatever the case may be, 5 guys should always be able to block 4. But I believe there should be a point this year, maybe this weekend against Washington, that Ohio State's front 4 is going to be able to get pressure to where you don't have to bring a blitz. And the opposing team's 5 offensive linemen won't be able to block Ohio State's 4 defensive linemen on that particular play. CJ Hicks, to me, I don't think he's been held back. I think he's been trying to learn the position, which is expected. He played 3 years of linebacker at Ohio State, came in to play a linebacker last year. I think he realized his best spot in playing football is to be on the edge, but he didn't get there consistently. I think the consistency that he thought he could provide on a Saturday wasn't there in practice for him to get the belief of the coaches that he could do that thing on a Saturday. I could be wrong, but if you're doing it consistently in practice at the right level, it's hard for me to believe that Ohio State is not going to allow that tool that's in the bag to be utilized. Now, maybe it was, well, we got 2 guys that are about to be second-round picks. How about we just let them cook? And maybe that's the case, but CJ Hicks provides a different gear than what Sawyer and Tuimoloau can provide. And for this team, I think the gear that he can provide, and something that we haven't seen for a full season or even a 4 or 5 game stretch to know what it's going to be consistently. So this is all projection. I think Hicks is going to be a phenomenal pass rusher this year once he puts it all together on a Saturday. He's probably putting it together on a practice field on a Tuesday or Wednesday, but Saturday is a different animal. And so I'm looking forward to CJ Hicks responding to the challenge, Keanu Jackson Jr. responding to the challenge. And I wouldn't be shocked if Ohio State had 4 or 5 sacks this weekend. And it's not to say that Washington's offensive line is bad. I just think that the defensive front needs to be challenged to step up in a big way. And I believe they're going to rise to that challenge. It's a big task, a big ask to try to contain a quarterback like DeMond Williams, who is very crafty, who is very quick, who makes the right decision over and over and over again. But if you find ways to get pressure on him all throughout the game, that's going to limit his productivity and how prolific it can be with the ball in his hand. Speaking of being prolific with the ball in his hand, Julian Sayin strives to be that. And coming up next, it'll be myself, Tomashoff, and Spencer McLaughlin right there. All 3 of us did a show right there on Locked On College Football discussing if Ohio State is overlooking Washington and if the Buckeyes should be on upset alert. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Ohio State, Max Clare delivered in a big way last time Ohio State played, and I think he's going to deliver in a big way once again when Ohio State steps on the field against Washington. When the pressure was on, Max Clare came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Max Clare is on a streak. And just like Max Clare delivered for Ohio State, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Promo period through November 18th. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by using FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
A showdown in Seattle and a real test for the number one team in college football. Jay Stevens of Locked On Buckeyes and Roman Tomashoff of Locked On Huskies are here, getting you ready for what is a monster game. Roman, I want to start with you here because Jedd Fisch is in year 2, and year 1 got to a bowl game. Year 2 off to a good start, coming off a rivalry win. I think he's still looking for that really signature win. The Michigan win last year was good. This would be many orders of magnitude greater than that. And this would be, I think, a moment where the entire Washington community would say, okay, this is our guy. We want this to be our guy. And then he'd go take the Florida job. But this would be a great moment for Jedd Fisch to have a breakthrough opportunity. If I had my own top 25, which is in the works, we're getting there. It's just been a busy week. Washington would be a top 25 team to me. So what do you see as being on the line here for the Huskies this week?
It's the leap forward that I'm glad you mentioned the Michigan game last year. When I think about like a real just boost to the program, a real shot in the arm, I think about the 2022 Michigan State game. And obviously that team wasn't very good either, but it was kind of you play a couple of non-conference games, whatever. Oh, and then, they were number 11 at the time, a top 15 team in the country comes into Husky Stadium and, we're going to just see what this team and this program is really about at that time under Kalen DeBoer. Obviously you win that game running away. And it was just the shot that everyone needed after the Jimmy Lake era. And I think that year 1 of the Jedd Fisch era was very productive, especially considering all the circumstances. But when I think of the energy and the boost, and especially like on the recruiting trail and things like that, that a win over number 1 Ohio State, because Washington is 0-4 at Husky Stadium against the number 1 team in the country, I think that it would just be the boost that everyone was looking for that was supposed to carry over from the end of the Kalen DeBoer era. And Washington is still here. Washington, to some of us, never left, but is really just back in the picture in terms of top teams in the Big Ten.
Jay, for Ohio State, it's not their first test of the season, though Arch Manning has not looked good until Sam Houston this past week. Flex on him, Arch. Flex on him. Yes, it's unbelievably cringe. But Texas's defense is legit. I still think Texas is a good team. They're just trying to figure out quarterback. So that was a very real test. I don't think that was a fluke win. It was really impressive, and Julian Sayin certainly has made some strides throwing the ball since that time. But this is their first road test of the year, and it's a legitimate one. Washington, for those who are unaware, Roman, you like this one. Washington is yet to lose a Big Ten conference game at Husky Stadium. Unbeaten against Big Ten foes there in Seattle. So, Jay, I think this is another opportunity. Well, Roman, we'll get back.
Give me 2 seconds here.
Because
you make the Jedd Fisch comment. You're so proud of your little factoid.
I am.
That's why Washington hasn't lost a home game since 2021.
Yeah, but the Big Ten thing is more exciting because this is a Big Ten game. Jay, what do you want to see from Ohio State this week?
Win? Can I just be that simple and not have to go with 1,000 words? Just win. Just go out there and win. Shut down the Huskies and be the first team to beat Washington in Husky Stadium since 2021. Thank you, Roman, for that little note there. I think I want to see Ohio State, honestly, continue the path that they're currently on. It is not about being the number 1 team in the country. That's a great thing that be, but Sayin's trajectory, continue to stay steady and stay poised. And if a mistake is made or when one is made, bounce back pretty quickly. The Buckeyes defense continue to be a unit that is able to slow down and contain any team. You found you had an answer for Arch Manning, and even Steve Sarkisian talked about the answer that you had for Arch after the game. Grambling couldn't do anything. Ohio Bobcats couldn't move the ball. And so Ohio State's defense must continue to be the dominant force they have been. Continue to get better and use the bye week as what it was, a time for Ohio State to rest up and improve and get better. Don't lay an egg. I don't want to watch Ohio State this weekend do what they did last year against Nebraska, where you let Dylan Raiola get a little confidence during his true freshman year. Ultimately, Ohio State won the game, but it was kind of a game where they slept, walked through the game, and they ended up finding a way to win. No, be dominant all 4 quarters, exert your will, set the tone, and remind everybody that while Ohio State was off and Miami had another win and Oklahoma looked pretty good, it's still the Buckeyes. And the Buckeyes are going to need to go to Washington and play like a team that they are.
Yeah, I think it's a really fun test for Julian Sayin in this spot because it is their first real road game of the year. You're going to have a hostile environment. It's the first of several big home games for Washington this year. They've got Illinois coming to town later this season. They've got Oregon coming to town later this season. The season ticket holders, of which my uncle is one of many out there, are certainly getting their money's worth this year. But Roman, for Washington in this game, I think if you haven't watched the Huskies play since last year, and by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, but is the last team to win at Husky Stadium, is it the Jaden DeLaura-led Washington State Cougars?
Yes, it is.
Sorry, I just have to be proud of myself for that sicko college football knowledge for a moment. Anyway, so for Washington in the spot, if you haven't watched the Huskies since last year, which given their really weak non-conference slate, you probably haven't. Maybe you tune into the Apple Cup for a bit, but Washington State is down compared to where they were 4 years ago when they beat Washington in Seattle. But you probably thought last year, yep, that offensive line, not good. Not good. Boy, the trench play, not there. I was perusing our friends at Pro Football Focus earlier today, and I noticed that there are some pretty stellar remarks for the Washington offensive line so far this year. Now, they have played Colorado State, UC Davis, and Washington State. Ohio State's obviously a much bigger test, but that's the number one thing that popped into my head when considering, can Washington pull an upset in this spot? My top question after seeing the Huskies play last season is, are they good enough in the trenches? Because I've seen Ohio State. I know they're good enough on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, they're significantly better. Quick question for you, Spencer. This is trivia. Just you have 5 seconds to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Who started for Washington in that game at quarterback?
Dylan Morris.
Wrong.
No.
It was the first and only start of 5-star Sam Heward.
Sam Heward. Oh, no. Oh, dang it.
I thought you'd get that. That's disappointing.
Shoot.
But
I'm really upset that I didn't. I'm going to be mad the rest of the day.
Just speaking of bad trench play, that game was just horrendous. But no, Washington's offensive line has significantly taken a step forward. And yeah, you're right. They haven't had a big test like Ohio State just yet. But they also didn't look stellar last year in the non-conference play against Eastern Michigan, Weber State, and Wazoo. So I look at this group and I think Carver Willis was a tremendous acquisition from Kansas State to play left tackle, where he played right tackle over there, was an all Big 12 honorable mention. On the left side, he's been really solid, the steady veteran presence that this group needed. Drew Azzopardi was one of the lowest graded offensive linemen in the Big Ten last year at right tackle. He has taken a significant step forward. Big shout out to offensive line coach Michael Switzer for that, by the way. He's done a tremendous job working with this entire unit. And then one name who I threw at Jay over on our Locked On College crossover is true freshman offensive lineman John Mills, who started each of the team's first 3 games at left guard. He has been just an absolute mauler in the run game so far. And he's someone who at 17 years old still is 6'6", 320 pounds, and just looks ready for the Big Ten. Looks ready for.
You telling me he's
football.
Jumbo Ryan Williams?
That's not what I said, but
that's all I heard. That's all I heard.
They did bring him in to start, and he has done a tremendous job so far this season. And yeah, there's still questions like, hey, is this going to hold up against the elite of the elite in the Big Ten? And we're going to find out this weekend. But no matter what, this offensive line is not what it was last year, and it's going to take a big step forward this season.
Jay, give me your 30-second thoughts on Ohio State in the trenches so far.
Been pretty good. Offensive line is playing better early in the year than normal. A lot of that's due to the injuries Ohio State suffered last year, and Montgomery and Hinsman and Shabola got a lot of valuable playing time last year in the playoff push to win the national championship. D-line, Caden Curry, Bo Atkinson have looked pretty good. Caden McDonald's looked like a monster. There are still some other guys, C.J. Hicks, Edric Houston. The Buckeyes are still pushing to play better and more consistent early in the year.
We're going to get to a couple more key matchups. We'll talk quarterbacks. We'll get our predictions for one of the games of the week in college football. More coming right here on Locked On College Football.
So it is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward all goes back to what we witnessed on Saturday when Oklahoma beat Auburn. Now, Auburn is not the world beater, but anytime a team has 10 sacks in a game, you get my attention. And that's going to put the entire country on notice, including Ohio State, for what Oklahoma can do this year and for what Ohio State should be able to do on the football field. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved.
Let's talk about the quarterbacks in this game. Really fun matchup. Damon Williams has been impressive through the first 3 games. Really impressive. And Julian Sayin, Jay, still feels like there's another gear. Still feels like, he's looking for that signature moment where he arrives as a potential superstar in college football. This game presents that opportunity. I don't have any question about that because I'm not someone that's going to undersell the importance of going on the road for the first time, how hard it is to win at Husky Stadium, and the fact that Washington is a good team. I don't know that they're a great team, but they're certainly a good team. And if Julian Sayin goes out and goes for 280 and 3 touchdowns and no turnovers in this game, I think that'll turn a lot of heads across the country. Because right now, I think most people's impression of him is, he got carried by his defense in the Texas game and made a couple of throws.
That's a good way to look at it, because if you just looked at the box score and you just looked at the stats from both teams, Texas and Ohio State, you would assume that he just rolled the defense the entire time. He has been accurate, so accurate this year. Spencer and Roman, you guys know the kind of quarterback that he is and what he's been this year. This is a big step for a guy making his 4th start in college football. It's his first true road game he's played this year, and you're going out there to a place that's going to be a hostile environment. Some say, Spencer, it's the loudest stadium in the country. I didn't say that.
I don't know. I've heard conflicting reports about that.
That's what I've heard, is that Husky Stadium
conflicting reports
louder than Austin Stadium.
There are numbers to back this up.
I don't think the data is settled on that.
But I do think, though, for Julius Sayin, that 280 and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, that's all he needs to do. He doesn't need to go in there and throw for 450 or 500 yards and throw for 6 touchdowns. No, the 280 and 3 touchdowns, if that actually happens, if that's his stat line, that's a very good day. If he stays consistent and putting the ball right on the money like he has done over and over and over this year, you're going to walk out of this game and think, oh, Julius Sayin, he's a guy. And I think he's a guy. But he has to go out there and prove it in Big Ten play. Had a really great start to his career as Ohio State's QB1. I think that trend continues on Saturday.
Roman, am I the only one that when Jay said this is a guy was thinking about Drax when the Guardians find Thor in Infinity War? No, you were a dude. This is a man.
So, no, I was thinking, now here's a guy, but I do love your thought process there.
Thank you. That's right where my head went. You are a dude. This is a man. Julian Sayin can
today during the show, but it happened anyway.
Julian Sayin can become a man this weekend in Seattle. Roman, Damon Williams has sneakily been playing really good football. For those of that have been paying attention, it's me. I've been paying attention. Because I think more or less is kind of my job here on the show. But this is the biggest test for him as well, and probably why he doesn't have a lot more respect or name recognition nationally, and why some people probably still think his name is Desmond when it is not. It's because, he barely played last year, and he's been really good, again, in 3, low-profile games this year. Well, here you go. If this is the guy that a lot of Washington fans hope And I see the potential. I mean, he's twitchy. He's got a good arm. He's incredibly accurate. He does a lot of things well. And a lot of people will be watching him for the first time in their careers. This is about as tough of a test, other than the fact that it's at home, as you're going to find defensively.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the things where, it's a traditional dual threat kind of thing where people are going to say, oh, well, he's a great athlete, right? Like he might legitimately be the best athlete on the field. That is how fast and how twitchy and how good he is inside the pocket, outside the pocket. You can go watch any number of games outside of the Oregon game last year where he does a tremendous job.
We're not counting that one. That doesn't.
Well, no, because of the offensive line. No,
Oh.
because of the offensive line.
Okay.
But you can truly go back and just watch him just truly magically escape sacks at so many different points of time. So people are going to look at him, because I've already seen this, and say, oh, well, he's a runner first, right? Like, no, this is a guy who can stand in the pocket. He's tremendously accurate. He completed 84% of his passes against Washington State. Like, this is a dude who is highly accurate at all points of time, at all levels of the field. He's got a 75, somewhere in that ballpark, career completion percentage. Like, he is truly like one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the country. And I think that that's something that people are going to take away from this game is, oh, this guy legitimately is the definition of a dual threat quarterback. Jed Fish will call him the fastest player on the team if you ever ask him about what kind of athlete he is. And when he gets in the open field, he really can show that. And I think Ohio State certainly has a lot of ways to match up very well with him. And this is where I think that if this game comes down to one possession, one of the things that can, and in my opinion, will keep this game somewhat close is DeMond making off-structure plays with both his arm and his legs.
I'm really excited for this one, and I'm starting to nail down my pick in my head. So let's get to a little early Saturday selections action. Are you guys good with that? Making score predictions here. So Ohio State getting tested on the road for the first time. Washington being tested for the first time, period, this season. Now, the over-under is set at the moment, according to our friends over at FanDuel, official sportsbook sponsor here at the Locked On Network, at 52.5. I don't know about you guys. I lean towards the under. Now, I think both these quarterbacks can make some plays, but I don't think Sayin is going to hit his full potential in this spot. You are going to have a loud, and I mean loud, environment. Jury's out on whether it's loudest in the country, but you're going to have a difficult environment to be going into with a young quarterback for the first time. And then conversely, you're going up against an Ohio State defense that, man, they can just play. They can flat out play. They are well coached. They have got talent. Caleb Downs is an absolute beast. So I'd take the under if I were so inclined over at FanDuel. I'm taking Ohio State to win. I think Washington covers 8.5, though. I think we're going no field goals, 21-14. There's going to be a missed field goal in this game that is the reason somebody, Ohio State, doesn't cover. I'm going, nope, that didn't feel right. Rolling it back. Hold on. 20-14. 20-14, Ohio State wins, Washington covers. Jay?
Spencer. I agree with you with one thing, and one thing only, with your little comments there. I am going with the under of 52.5. I think that it's going to be closer to 52.5 than you have your 20-14 or 21-14, whichever number you want to choose for Ohio State. I still think this game is an Ohio State game where the defense is going to do everything they can to slow down Washington's offense, which is difficult. I have been really impressed, and more impressed than I thought I was going to be with DeMond Williams and the way he's able to move the ball, how quick his decisions are, and when he puts his foot to the ground and goes, he gets there very quickly. I got Ohio State winning 34-17. To me, in this game, and Roman, we talked a little bit about on the crossover, I think Washington's pass defense will be tested. And I think Jeremiah Smith, knowing that Denzel Boston's going to get a lot of attention and get a lot of publicity because of how good he is, I think it's going to add fuel to Jeremiah Smith's fire. And I'll make a bold prediction on this show. I think Jeremiah Smith goes for 3 touchdowns on Saturday, and Ohio State wins 34-17.
Whoa, 3 touchdowns. Roman, you going to sit there and take that?
Well, like I said to Jay on our crossover.
Oh, I know what's about to happen here.
What's going to happen, Spencer? Tell me.
I know what you're going to say.
Tell me what I'm going to say.
Go ahead. You're going to mention some game from the past.
No, I wasn't, actually.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, that's what I thought. No, like I said to Jay, if there is any cornerback in the country, like if you built a corner in a laboratory to try to stop Jeremiah Smith, it would look like Tacario Davis. 6'4", 200 pounds, really great in press coverage. I think that is just one of the biggest things that I'm going to be watching in this game. And he's one of the biggest reasons that I think Washington can keep this game close. He came to UW to play in this Ryan Walters scheme because of games like this. He knows he's going to play a lot of one-on-one coverage. Is it easy to stop Jeremiah Smith in one-on-one coverage? No, it's not, Spencer, since you want me to bring it up. I know Oregon tried that.
I just thought you were going to.
I really wasn't going to until you said that. Yeah, so this is on you. But I look at that matchup, and I'm so excited to see what it's going to look like because this is what Ryan Walters wants to do. He wants to trust his cornerbacks to play out on an island and try to just contain for 2-3 seconds while this 5, sometimes 6-man pressure that he's going to throw at Julian Sayin hits home. Will it? I'm curious to see that because as we have talked about, this is a very big step up in competition from Washington State, UC Davis, and Colorado State. But I think UW has everything it needs to keep this game close. I am a huge jinx, so there is absolutely no way I can take UW to win in this stamp because I will jinx it if that happens. So with that being said, I do think that, I think that the under is going to hit. So give me 28-24 Ohio State as of right now.
There
I'm
you
a
have
jinx.
it.
I'm putting that out there.
By the way, I'm 4 games under 500 with my spread picks this year, so I apologize in advance. Roman, Jay Stevens, Locked On Buckeyes, Roman Tomashoff, Locked On Huskies. Great as always, guys. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time, and until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.